Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to teach you everything about gear in Lost Ark. I myself am on the Russian version for this video, and I'm gonna guide you through everything from where you get gear to how you upgrade it and what are the things you can do with gear in Lost Ark. If you want to try out this lovely MMORPG yourself before it comes out for us in the West, it's definitely worth trying out. I have a video in the description below guiding you through every single step that you need to do to get it going on your PC. It basically takes 5 minutes, really not a big deal to get the Russian version going, yeah? Cool, so I'm gonna talk first about where you get gear, and then in the second part of the video I'm gonna talk about everything you can do with gear. There are 4 places that you can get gear with the Russian release of Lost Ark: PvP, raiding, dungeons and crafting. 2 of these 4 places also give you accessories and not only weapons and armor. These 2 places are raiding and dungeons. You cannot craft accessories and you cannot get accessories from PvP tokens. Since I'm in the PvP area right here, the person who sells you the gear from PvP is this guy, the merchant right next to every board, every queuing board in the for PvP in the game, in every major town. I said gear from PvP, I did not say PvP gear, because there is no PvP gear in Lost Ark in the sense of here's a piece of gear that if you equip, you do more damage in PvP or take less damage from other players in PvP. There's no such thing, it's just simply another way of getting gear in Lost Ark. If PvP is your cup of tea, then obviously you're gonna enjoy doing that content more and at the same time get the gear from here and grow in terms of your item level. So it's a kind of a win-win situation. In the Russian release of Lost Ark there is only 1 tier of PvP gear. There's gonna be more tiers afterwards. And yeah, this is where you get it. It's just simply gear, same as any other set. The second place to get gear from is raiding, and how it works is every first boss from every tier gives you the materials to craft that particular piece of gear that you want, that you're missing. If you look in the reward table right here, you can see that this first boss in the tier 1 raiding gives you these 3 materials. With these 3 materials, you craft yourself the raiding piece. It's really easy. You don't have to have any max level in crafting or anything like that. You just give the mats to a merchant and he crafts the piece automatically for you in exchange of some shillings. Not a big deal. Everyone can do it. And also on top of these materials, you get accessories. Accessories that, depending on your luck, you can get better grade of them or worse grade of them. Obviously the difference in between them is the stats that they have on them in the Russian version, yeah? The second boss, third boss and fourth boss in every raid tier gives you also rewards, also some materials, but with these you don't craft better gear. Instead you upgrade to 2, to 3, to 4, to 5 the piece that you've crafted with the mats from the first boss. And of course better accessories and so on and so forth. The higher tier and the better the boss, the higher grade of accessories, not grade but the higher stats on your accessories and so on and so forth. Cool. The third place that I want to mention, and this is a very straightforward one, are dungeons, because they are on our way here. Dungeons, by dungeons I mean chaos dungeons, but also regular dungeons give you gear, armor, weapons and accessories. Same goes for the chaos dungeons. This is another place from which you can get all of the armor pieces and the weapon and also the accessories, yeah, depending on your luck. The dungeons also give you an upgrading material for dungeon gear, but we're going to talk about everything upgrading in the second part of the video. So dungeons and chaos dungeons are another place that you can get gear from. The fourth and last place you can get gear from is this merchant right here. They are present in every major town. They have this symbol right here, and you can find them really in all 3 major towns. They are translated craft life equipment, and if you talk to them, then they will ask you for some materials and then craft you the piece that you want. Different materials are needed for different kind of pieces depending on what you want, but in general they are merchants that craft you gear if you gather yourself. If you're a gatherer, or maybe you just want to buy these materials from the broker, that's also an option, and craft yourself this set of gear. It is really easy to get. So while we're here, let's just craft this piece for ourselves just to see how it looks. It's really fast, it's really instant, it just takes a little bit of shillings and that's about it. So now in my bag I have 4 tunics for my particular class, and these 4 tunics are each of them from a separate place. Now let me talk about the differences in between the 4 sets of gear that are available. This one is from PvP, does not give you any PvP related stats. It gives you the same kinda basic stats up top there: intelligence, vitality, intelligence, vitality, intelligence, vitality, and the same thing here. This is because I'm playing a summoner. If you're playing another class and you're wearing a different type of gear like heavy or medium, then definitely you're gonna have different stats there in the top. Physical defense is also something that you get on your armor. You get magical defense from your accessories. So obviously in PvP, both physical and magical defense are important in that sense. That's why you need to stay up to date with your accessories as well. This PvP chest has a different set effect for 3 pieces and 5 pieces than this particular set that has different bonuses and also different stages. This one takes only 2 pieces for the first bonus and then 5 pieces for the second one. This one, which is a set from the dungeons, has for 3 pieces and for 5 pieces, and this one, which is just the raiding gear, has 2 set effect, 3 set effect, and 5 set effect. So you can imagine that depending on what you play every day, depending on what you need to be better prepared for, that is kind of the type of gear that you should go for. Also, it depends on what you enjoy playing every day. If you're just in Lost Ark to PvP, then obviously you should get this set. It's not as if you cannot finish raiding if you have a full set of these. It's not as if you cannot finish dungeons if you have a full set of these life crafted things. It's the same thing, only they help you in that particular area more. The PvP set, if you see the 5 set effect, it reduces the cooldown of your dodge by 10%. Now all of these set bonuses, they don't work in PvP. Nothing works in PvP. Your runes don't work, your seals don't work, and neither do your set bonuses. But if you want to do island PvP or open world PvP, then definitely this can come in handy. Also the 5 set bonus from the PvP gear can also come in handy in raiding. Why not? Have a dodge that's 10% faster. Not necessarily a must, not necessarily needed. It's definitely much more needed in PvP than it is in PvE. And if you look at the raiding piece of gear, you do 15% more damage to raid monsters, which is obviously amazing, and you have the ability called telescope, translated as telescope, to see where the raid boss is inside the raid. That's again another huge advantage. If one person in the party has this full set, then that's enough. Everyone in the party can see where the raid boss has moved, and you can just go there instead of searching for it. So obviously really nice, and depending on the set that you want, depending on what you do more, you should definitely get this particular set. Another difference in between these sets is the mats that are needed to polish it. There's a lot of things that you can do with gear in Lost Ark to make it better, to make it more your own. You can polish the piece, which raises the item's level and also increases the basic stats. You can change the extra stats on the piece, you can add runes to the piece, and also you can change the polish effects. I'm gonna show all of these things to you. Let's start with polishing. This is the bread and butter of Lost Ark. Everyone wants to polish their gear because polishing means you've gotten more item level, which means you can do more things in the game, and also your character is better in that sense. Polishing any piece of gear requires this mat, which is called acrasium. I want to highlight this mat as being the most important material in Lost Ark. Where you see this, that is where you want to go do things if this is a reward. This is needed from the beginning of your journey at endgame in Lost Ark up until you quit the game. You're gonna need this mat in spades. So every piece requires this particular mat to be available, yeah? If I look at the raiding piece that I have right here, then it requires me to have raiding mats that you get from raiding. There is 5 polish effects, and if I would like to polish my item once, I need these mats from the second boss in the first tier of raiding. And then it goes so on. The more bosses you do, the more polish stages you can go through, because you will get those mats from those bosses, yeah? Cool. If we look here at this, whatever this symbol is, you will see what happens after I polish my piece once. It goes from item level 280 to item level 290. That's a nice increase. The physical defense on it increases. The intelligence, vitality, and so on and so forth. The stats that I already have on it, they get increased. And also, if I would polish my gear once, I would get this effect, this polish effect that I can later on change into whatever I want. We're gonna move to this next piece right here. This is the dungeon piece. As you can see, this one costs 10 acrasium to get to the first polish, and it requires you these mats. These mats you get from doing chaos dungeons. Every single mat that is required to polish your set is obtained from the place that you got the set initially. If you got a raiding set, you need to continue and keep doing raiding in order to polish and upgrade that gear. If you got a dungeon set, you need to keep doing chaos dungeons to get this mat to polish it. If you got PvP set, then this mat is purchased with PvP tokens from the merchant I showed you. So this is kind of how it goes. It requires 10 of these acrasiums to polish the first stage of my PvP chest. However, if you look here, it only requires 5 acrasium. Acrasium is pretty hard to get. So why does one require 10 and the other one require 5? It's actually very simple. If you look in the polish effects as we did, you can see here, if I look at my PvP polish effects, the item level goes from 280 to 300. It doesn't go to 290 as it does go here. Yeah. So I'm getting double the value if I polish and upgrade the PvP piece than I am if I do the raiding piece. And this, the difference in item level, goes the same for everything. For example, this is the life skill crafted thing that we did. Again, 280 to 300, and then the next stage is 300 to 320. Here, the second stage is 290 to 300. So I would have to polish this piece twice in order to get to item level 300, but only have to polish this piece once to get to 300. That is why the difference in the cost of acrasium. So now it's up to you. Do you really feel that the set effects of this particular set are so good and so awesome that it's worth for you to, you know, upgrade it more often with, let's say, less acrasium, half the price? Or do you want to do you have enough acrasium to just go ahead and get 20 item levels per piece, per upgrade? It really depends on you at the end of the day, and it depends on what you like to do more in the game. Eventually, when Russia is also going to have all of the patches that Korea has, I can tell you one thing, that the gear that you get from raiding eventually ends up giving you the highest item level. The gear that you can craft, or the gear that you can get from PvP, even if there's gonna be more tiers of it, is always going to be behind in terms of item level compared to your raiding gear. So if you really enjoy raiding, if you really want to do raiding, then definitely the raiding gear is a good place to go. But it requires you to go through more stages. After you finish the first stage of your the first tier of this set, you get it to max, you reach enough item level to do tier 2 raiding, and then with tier 2 raiding, as normally, the first boss in tier 2 gives you mats to craft your pieces of tier 2 raiding. There is no tier 2 PvP gear, and there is no tier 2 crafting gear, and there is no tier 2 dungeon gear. So eventually raiding gear is gonna give you the highest item level. Another thing really quickly that I wanted to talk about is the polish effect on things. For example, these things that are currently equipped on myself, this is a weapon, right? It is polished to 3 stages. Regardless of the importance of this polish on this piece, I just want to show you the effects. The same goes on every other piece that you polish yourself, right? These are the effects, and if you click this button right here, it tells you a whole list of random effects that you can get. These again don't work in PvP, in arena PvP. They do work in open world PvP. But these do work in all the PvE content in the game. So obviously, if you know that your class uses this skill a lot and you love to play with it and this is your bread and butter, then you should definitely, you know, get this polish effect on this piece. The next piece that you have equipped on yourself, why not, you know, look for a polish effect that is a skill that you actually use. You can have a maximum of 2 extra stats here. You get one at polish number 1 and you get the second at polish number 3. 4 and 5 does not give you a third polish effect here. This is another thing that you can do with your gear to change this according to re-roll this basically according to what you do. You need worthy hammers. The best place to get worthy hammers, by the way, is doing sea and water content, loot for treasures there, scuba dive and stuff like that. Another gear upgrading thing I wanted to talk about is this rune artisan present in every major town as well. Gear can also have runes socketed on it, right? And every piece of gear has a various number of rune slots. Some of them are locked and you need to unlock them yourself by just clicking on them. Let's do it like that. You select this catalyst. This again can be acquired, a lot of it from sea and water content, and then you confirm it unlocks the rune slot. You get a random rune slot every time you unlock it, and in the game there's a variety of runes. There's runes that give you immunity, there's runes that give you HP and attack, there's runes that give you extra damage to that type of mob. Runes are 99% made for raiding, because in raiding there's various elements of bosses. Some of them is one boss is a water element, and then in that raid it would be nice if you on your gear would have extra damage to water elements. Some bosses do dark damage in raiding again, and it would be nice if you would have on your gear dark damage resistance or dark damage immunity, right? If you have maximum of immunity or resistance, if you have maximum of immunity, you get to be immune to some 1 or 2 max skills that the bosses do in the raid, important skills that are otherwise annoying. If you have resistance runes, then those only work, I think, up until 60% tops of or 80% tops of a particular resistance to a type of spell the bosses does. So when the boss does that spell in that raid, you're going to take less damage from it. Runes are definitely very important. Runes are something that is extremely underrated, especially if you're new to the game. Runes in raiding help you have an extremely much better time with all of the mechanics that are there until you learn it. But obviously, would you grind for runes to always socket them on your gear when you know you're going to replace this in T-2-3 weeks? Also, the better tiers of bosses you do, like the 2nd, 3rd, 4th boss, they require you to have different runes. Not all bosses are fire elements, and not all bosses do dark damage, so you can put dark damage runes on at the beginning of your raiding career and then have that for the next 5 bosses. It doesn't work like that. Some do frost, some do fire, and you keep having to swap these runes over, right? It's a whole complicated thing. Maybe I'm going to talk about this rune thing in a different kind of video, but just for you to know that they really help you in raiding, and they're really not that hard to unlock the slots and to get the right type of slots. Also, you can change the slots, as you can see right here. For example, I don't like this particular slot. If I would have one catalyst, which is a very easy item to get, and with a little bit of shillings, I could just re-roll this slot to another random slot, right? I'm not gonna get into slots. There's also white slots that are like the best and stuff. Maybe I'm gonna talk about runes in another video if you guys are really curious. The last thing that I want to talk about is change stats merchant, a very important merchant. Every piece of gear can be altered like this. For example, again, as an example, my raiding jerkin, I have subdue and proficiency on it. What are these extra stats? They are these right here. These grow the more you have item level, the more you polish your gear. These you can change yourself at this merchant. So now you have to go to your character and see what does critical do for you? What does speciality do for you? Do you take advantage of speciality in your content? Maybe you just do raiding in this game and never do PvP. These stats, they count in PvP. So it's very important, if you are a PvP person, to adjust these stats according to how you play in PvP, right? Specialities, if you use these a lot. Maybe you give up agility because you use these a lot depending on what class you have, like a Soul Master, for example, they use these a lot. So it depends on you, but it's another thing you can change in terms of gear, a very interesting change thing, an RNG kind of thing. You press change and then you get, you know, instead of proficiency and speciality, I got speciality plus 18 and critical plus 7. So definitely an upgrade, because, you know, proficiency maybe not something that I necessarily want if I'm just a PvPer. These are all the things you can upgrade your gear with. These are all the places you can get gear from. I'm sorry if this was too long. I just wanted to make sure that I cover all of the basics and explain them in a way that you guys that are new would understand, hopefully. Yeah, with more patches that come, there's gonna be more tiers of every single piece of gear. There's gonna be more accessories. I didn't even get the chance to talk about accessories that there are on the sea, some merchants that you exchange some tokens for better accessories. Didn't even get to tell you that the Lupeon seals, after you hit 50, the Lupeon seal merchant, which is something that looks like some fancy, it's translated as a fancy merchant. This one right here, I believe, yeah, this one gives you, especially in the Baron one, gives you a nice accessory that you can equip with nice stats if for Lupeon seals. But regardless, if you have any other questions, please leave them in the comments below. Very happy to help you out more and answer them. Until my next video, which is just gonna be in just 2 days from now, guys. I thank you so much for your time. I wish you lots of love, and I'm gonna see you really soon.